So I just saw Justice League, and
The movie plagued with as many problems.
The story
as
they're
it
fighting
is
through is a mess.
and I gotta say, I loved it. No, I really mean it, guys. I actually thought it was hilarious. It was such a mess that I actually enjoyed myself. I like watching these movies fuck up and fail every year. It's become a great tradition. I was on record saying that Wonder Woman was a fluke and that it could not save Justice League from failing. The second you hear about desperate reshoots, you know you're in for some shit.
My man.
My man!
However, while this movie was funny, it was still bad, and it still did make me upset a lot of the time. And I've been thinking about this idea for this video for a while now because it's been an issue that I've had for a while. My issue is that DC just has the worst heroes. Or at least that's what the public thinks.
Are you more of a Marvel guy or a DC guy?
What's the difference? What is this?
Let's start by saying I actually love DC's characters and the stories that they're in. Most of my comic library is made up of DC comics. While I do prefer Marvel, like most people do nowadays, there was a time when I did not feel that way. But lately I think Marvel's been represented very well in media, and that's the key. Media representation outside of comics is how you shape public opinion about comic book characters. The biggest problem with DC superheroes is that they are misrepresented in popular media. There. That's the whole video. I'm done. Bye, guys. But no, seriously, I'm gonna try to explain this a little deeper because it's kind of a big problem. Public perception of superheroes is important to the integrity of the character. If you change a concept about Batman in a movie, then people are gonna think that's how things are supposed to be. You know how just a few years ago people thought Spider-Man's webs came out of his fucking body? God, it's so nasty. Just because the general public was told that in a movie. If you told any of those normies back then that shooting webs was not actually one of Spider-Man's powers, they would look at you like, what? Excuse me? Fact is that movies and shows shape public perception about these characters. Most people think the Fantastic Four are boring and stupid because they haven't been in a movie that isn't boring or stupid. In reality, the Fantastic Four are awesome, but the non-comic reading public doesn't know that. The Adam West Batman series left a lot of people thinking that Batman was silly and campy, a series for children. But then Tim Burton came out with his take on Batman and it made people realize that Batman was actually dark and action-packed. But still kind of silly and campy. But the general public also didn't know that in the comics, Batman was already doing dark and gritty shit. You can't rely on comic books to shape public perception. Lots of people think Aquaman is stupid because of the Super Friends. He was lame as fuck in that show, and then Family Guy made some jokes because of it.
Damn fool! You're more useless than Aquaman!
And everybody made some jokes because of it, and everybody thought Aquaman was this fucking goofball because that's how he was represented in media.
My ability to talk with fish is of no help, Wonder Woman.
Ever since then, there's been what I like to call the Aquaman Restoration Plan, where writers try every conceivable idea to try and make him cool. That's why they picked this big, cool, badass, handsome Dothraki guy to play him. You know the joke about him talking to fish in the movie?
I hear you can talk to fish.
That joke has been told in comic books, in cartoons, in video games.
Scarab says you talk to fish.
I'm sick of that fucking joke. It's not funny anymore. Oh, and by the way, he can't even talk to fish. He sends signals to their brain to, like, convince them to do shit for him.
Can't he talk to the fish?
Yes, eventually he can.
Movies and TV are just insanely more popular than comic books. Comics are a niche medium. They are a cult medium. It's sad, but it's true. People don't like to fucking read, okay? Most people don't fucking bother because it's easier to watch a movie or a show. So when you change ideas about a superhero in a show or a movie, and those ideas become popular, it bleeds into the comic books and the games. It creates this weird parasitic circle, but I'll get into that a little later. First, let's talk about TV shows. I remember a little while ago people were saying, yeah, Marvel movies are better, but DC has better shows, right? They were mainly referring to Arrow and Flash when that came out. But then Marvel came out with this fucking sleeper hit over here, followed it up with a killer second season and a few decent spin-offs, and no, not you. Not you. I know there are a lot of people out there who like Flash and Arrow and shows like that, but honestly, they're just cheesy CW dramas with crummy acting, bad direction, but an engaging soap opera story structure. I'm not saying that last part in a bad way. People like these shows because the plot is laid out much like a soap opera. But that's also the appeal of comic books. However, Daredevil showed people that comic book superhero shows can actually be good shows. Not just good for a superhero show, but good TV altogether. The first 2 episodes of Daredevil contain some of my favorite storytelling in television from the past few years. I can't even stomach a single episode of Arrow. So even though people enjoy these shows, which is fine, I think there are definitely worse shows to enjoy out there, they still aren't considered good shows anymore. Marvel beat them again, just like how they beat them with movies. And the reason they beat them in the movie department is because the guys who make these movies and these shows know their shit. The people making these new DC movies, they don't get it, okay? And if they don't get it, then neither does the general public. I have a very strong hypothesis about the people who direct and create the DC movies. I am convinced that most directors don't read more than a few comics to prepare for the movie. I think that when a movie director looks at Batman, they're like, okay, I get it. I don't need to read all this other shit because I understand Batman. Who doesn't? I mean, look at the Tim Burton Batman movie. That shit isn't even comprehensible from a comic book standpoint. He just made his own shit up. It worked for the time, but it's not based on anything. Look at the old Superman movies. You get the core ideas about who Superman is, but it doesn't really go any deeper than that. Again, they're just making shit up because they figured they understood the gist of it. But I guess it's not really fair to talk about these older movies because they were pioneers. They kind of created these genres all on their own, so they have a little more leeway, right? Well, let's talk about The Dark Knight then. I'm pretty sure Christopher Nolan only read The Long Halloween, The Killing Joke, The Dark Knight Returns, and Year One. Now I know what you're thinking. Hey Marcus, that's like 4 or 5 stories you just listed there. That's a lot to adapt for a trilogy. That's better than nothing, right? Well, here's the thing. If you do a basic Google search for the best and most iconic Batman stories, these are on the top 100% of the time. These are baby's first Batman stories. This is what everybody reads at first. They're great, yeah, but it's hard to feel love for a character when you're only seeing a representation of their core stories. And that's it. Let's compare this to 2 things that I think get Batman right and feel faithful. The Arkham series of games and Lego Batman, the movie. These 2 properties obviously have a lot of love in them. Plus, they create unique stories that we haven't seen before. The Arkham games go that extra mile to show ideas that are from more obscure stories, and this makes the series stand out more. Likewise for Lego Batman, but obviously in a lighter way. I'm using this as another example because A, I want to show how a loving adaptation can show different sides of a character and present a completely new story, and B, not enough people have seen this movie. As someone who has read Batman comics for years, this is easily the most faithful Batman movie ever made, period. It's also actually funny, like it's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen.
I've seen you go through similar phases in 2016 and 2012 and 2008 and 2005 and 1997 and 1995 and 1992 and 1989 and that weird one in 1966.
So why am I even ranting about this idea? Because Marvel does it all the time. They take this reference material and then they make an entirely new experience based on it. Oh hey, what comics are we going to use for the new Thor movie? I don't know, let's take some of the grand scale epic fights from Thor God of Thunder. Let's take some of the comedic elements from Thor the Mighty Avenger. And let's just throw in some Planet Hulk, just to be safe. Wait, excuse me, what was that last part? Where the fuck did you get that from? You can just tell that the writers making these stories have a pretty good idea of how the source material works. They know the stories inside and out, and as such, they can craft unique movies. Spider-Man Homecoming is not based on any Spider-Man comic. As someone who happens to know his shit, I can tell when the creator does or doesn't. When Batman starts shooting people and killing them, then I get the idea that maybe someone doesn't understand the point of The Dark Knight Returns. And with that, I'm going to talk about how Zack Snyder doesn't understand the point of Batman or Superman. Let's start with Superman, since I've already bitched about Batman a lot so far. I'm pretty biased, I'm not gonna lie. Man of Steel and Batman v Superman are a mess because Zack Snyder has no idea how these characters work. And since movies and TV dictate how people view these characters, now the public doesn't understand these characters either. How often do you hear it when people say, I think Superman's really dumb, I'm just not that into Superman? I'd say that most people probably have this opinion right now. But guess what? If you've actually read a Superman comic, you'll see that Superman is nothing like movie Superman. He's actually fucking cool. In the movies, he's shown to be this emotionless, godlike figure. He's more of a symbol than a real person. His only motivation in movies is to save people and hang out with Lois Lane, I guess. That is like the bare minimum of what it takes to write a Superman story. He's not even a real person in these movies. He's completely unrelatable. This leads to the public thinking that he's boring. In actuality, Superman is a chill-ass dude. He grew up as a normal kid on this planet. It doesn't make sense for him to be this emotionless god because for all intents and purposes, he's just a normal everyday guy. The Justice League show does this the best. In fact, it does everything the best. It's easily one of my favorite superhero shows out there. It has mature elements and it tells a lot of really good stories. There's this one episode where it's Superman's birthday, so Diana and Bruce go to his little ice castle, and they find that he's in an alien parasite-induced coma. He's trapped in this fantasy world where he lives a lovely life on Krypton with a family and a good job, and then he realizes that it's not real, and you get this heartbreaking moment where he has to tell his son goodbye.
This is everything I ever wanted in a life. But I've got responsibilities, Van. And I have to go now.
Oh god. My little heart can't take it. Then there's a two-parter where in the first episode, Superman is apparently killed and the Justice League has to cope without him. They have to learn how to save the world when he's not around. But then in the second episode, you learn that Superman was just thrown into the distant future, a future where his powers don't work. So he has to go on this odyssey on his own to try and return to the present. This show is so fucking good, guys. I'm serious. The thing is, people just don't know that Superman is this relaxed, mellow dude. They think that Clark Kent views humanity as beneath him. Let's look at this scene from Kill Bill Volume 2.
A staple of the superhero mythology is there's the superhero and there's the alter ego. Batman is actually Bruce Wayne. Spider-Man is actually Peter Parker. And it is in that characteristic Superman stands alone. Superman didn't become Superman. Superman was born Superman. When Superman wakes up in the morning, he's Superman. What Kent wears, the glasses, the business suit, that's the costume. Clark Kent is how Superman views us. And what are the characteristics of Clark Kent? He's weak. He's unsure of himself. He's a coward. Clark Kent is Superman's critique on the whole human race.
Now this is one of my favorite movies ever made, but this is the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard. Clark Kent is not Superman's costume. He was Clark Kent before he was Superman. He was a regular dude before he was an all-powerful demigod. He loved his parents, had friends, relationships, he broke his heart. All of it happened on Earth. All before he started being a superhero full-time. And this is reflected in his personality. He has a tender soul, and he's a human being before anything else. He doesn't save people because humans are weak and frail. He saves them because he has the power to, because he wants to. Superman is the costume that Clark Kent wears. Now, I was gonna put this video out before Justice League came out, but I knew the Justice League was gonna have some kind of effect on what I'm about to say. Now, I'm only gonna talk about 2 scenes, so if you don't want any spoilers at all, skip to the time code here. There's a scene in this movie, which is obviously one of the scenes that Joss Whedon wrote, because I at least know that he's read a comic book. In the scene, it shows Bruce talking to Alfred, or maybe Wonder Woman. I don't really remember, and I don't fucking care. But anyway, he's talking about how Superman's a good guy, and how he should be alive and leading the team because he's more human than Bruce is. In this little speech, he mentions every single line that I wrote that I just said, how Clark is first and foremost a human, how he grew up on Earth, all that stuff. I wrote this script 3 days before the movie came out, so obviously someone's on the same page as me. However, the Superman that Bruce is talking about is not shown in this film. This is not the Superman that we see in this movie. In the first scene of the whole movie, we see these kids approaching Superman as they record him on a non-Apple smartphone. Now, I'm not going to talk about his weird CGI monster face. A lot of people already talked about that. That's not the point of this video. My problem with this scene is more about how Superman's acting. These kids are trying to talk to him because they look up to him. But the thing that I noticed was that Superman stays like 10 feet away from these kids. He stands there all stiff and motionless. Overall, he looks kind of pissed off that these kids are even bothering him. The real Superman would actually engage with these kids. He might kneel down and actually talk to them. Now, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he doesn't get close to the kids because he had the weird CGI mustache face. Fine. But that's not the only problem that I have with this scene. The last thing the kids ask him is, "What is your favorite thing about planet Earth?" And when they ask this, Superman chuckles and he looks off to the distance. This is heavily implying that he's thinking about Lois Lane, because Lois Lane's kind of the main point of Superman's character in this movie. And that's the problem. In Superman movies, Superman only cares about Lois Lane. That's one of the reasons people can't relate to this guy. You can't have a character whose motivations are solely based around their love interest. Superman and Clark Kent as a whole should have lots of things they love about Earth. It's his home. So we've got movies that are portraying Superman as a boring and emotionless goody two-shoes. Zack Snyder showed us a Superman that acts just like this. A Superman who is not fun to watch. Then in BVS, we have a Superman who, once faced with the death of dozens of people, which was entirely his fault, he flies away and hides from everyone. There were a lot of things about this movie that pissed me off, but this is probably the number one thing. In Man of Steel, Superman kills Zod because there just wasn't any other way to stop him. Now, when I saw the trailers for Man of Steel back in the day, I was fucking hyped, because I could tell that they were taking some inspiration from All-Star Superman, which is my favorite Superman story. It's probably one of my favorite comic books ever made. It's a short alternate universe miniseries where Superman is dying of an uncurable disease. In it, he tries to come up with a way to either stop himself from dying, or come up with a way to keep people protected while he's dead. It seems like a simple story, but the main concept is that of perseverance. How even when you're told there is no solution, no alternative path, no way to win, that in the end, there's always another way. It's probably the most inspiring comic I've ever read. In the comic, Superman says that there's always another way. But what happens with this version of Clark Kent? He can't fix anything. He never finds any solutions to any of his problems. You're telling me that you couldn't have done anything to stop Zod from lasering these people to death? Seriously? If you're strong enough to snap his fucking neck and leave a shockwave afterwards, then why don't you just aim his face somewhere else? You didn't even try! But it's not just Superman. Batman has been getting fucked for years. Now, I was originally going to release this video last year, and it was going to be just about Batman, because I have a lot to say about how Mr. Bruce Wayne gets treated in these movies. The Ben Affleck Batman is way, way, way too mean. And trust me, I like when Batman is a mean guy, but this Batman goes a little too far. What I mean to say is that he's actually evil. In Justice League, Batman doesn't save a single innocent person. I don't know why people are now only into the idea of Batman being a crime fighter. Batman wants to protect life too. That's kind of a big deal to him.
I'm dying very soon.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Could you stay with me? I'm scared.
I perceive it as not him killing directly, but by sort of, if the bad guys are associated with the thing that happens to blow up, that's not really.
New Batman has a total disregard for human life. My personal favorite moment for Ben Affleck's Batman is in Suicide Squad, where he beats up a man and arrests him in front of his daughter. Look how scared she is. Batman, please don't kill my dad! This core misunderstanding of Batman stems from something that I mentioned earlier. Zack Snyder only read one Batman comic. The Dark Knight Returns is arguably the most popular and influential Batman comic ever made. It's also one of the best. In this universe, Bruce is an old, retired, cynical, and angry man. Robin died a long time ago, so he's retired. He's alone and he's depressed, but he returns to crime fighting when he sees that the world needs him again. The villains that he faces are a lot meaner, a lot darker, and a lot more violent. He has to adjust to this new world of crime. This story was designed to bring Batman back to form, to make him a badass again after Adam West kind of made him a joke. The story explores extreme versions of Batman and Superman. Superman is a tool of the government, and Batman's more brutal and aggressive against crime. This story is the core inspiration for Batman v Superman. There's a lot of stuff in this movie that's just ripped directly from this comic. But this should never be your first Batman story. This isn't a hero. He's an anti-hero. This is not how Bruce normally is, so why is this the version that we have in our movies now? This story is regarded as the best in the same way that many people say Evangelion is the best mecha anime. If you watch Eva, you're still not getting a good representation of mecha anime, you're getting a dissection of those tropes. If you've never seen a mecha anime before, you can still enjoy Evangelion, obviously, but you're missing out on a lot of details that the creator put in. If this is the only Batman you know, you're gonna have a pretty messed up idea of what Batman is. So why are things like this? Why can't DC seem to get it right? Well, it's because of the studio and the creators. I'm talking about the fellas over at Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers doesn't care about superheroes. There's the whole incident with Ben Affleck leaving the solo Batman movie and that movie being delayed almost indefinitely because nobody wants to work on it. How the studio executives apparently said that they don't care if the movie was bad. Look how long it took for WB to put out a Wonder Woman movie. They didn't even believe in their own property. Fucking forget the fact that she's a whole third of your iconic trio. That doesn't matter, right guys? She's one of the most popular superheroes in the entire world. Now, one of the main reasons Diana didn't get a movie for so long is because she gets revamped and changed so often that most people don't even know what her lore is. She's gotten it pretty rough, if we're being honest. But then Patty Jenkins came along and she made a fun superhero movie that stays faithful to the core ideas of the character while telling a unique story. I talked a lot about Wonder Woman in the other video I made, so if you want more of that, you go and check that out. Now, if we're being honest, I think that this movie is gonna be the only good movie for DC. They're gonna fuck up the Wonder Woman sequel, and any other Batman or Superman spin-offs are gonna crash and burn too. That is, if they even manage to get released. The only movie on the horizon from DC that I think is actually going to get released is Flashpoint. And by God, I really wish that movie had a chance of being good. The original Flashpoint story is super cool, and I think that it would make for a really good sci-fi movie if done correctly. Flash is the only character that I think has been getting good representation in media, and that's why people tend to like him a lot more nowadays. I really hope that he doesn't get ruined like these other guys have. Diana at least hasn't been ruined yet, but with her being the only likable character in these films, it'd be great if we could get some love for everybody else. DC and Marvel are way different. Marvel characters see their powers as a curse, where DC heroes are born with them, or they cultivate them through training or something like that. Marvel heroes are mortal and they have mortal problems. DC heroes are gods amongst mankind, and a lot of their issues stem from that concept. Some people may see that as being less interesting than Marvel's idea of a superhero, but I would disagree. I think that neither is better than the other. I think that you can make interesting stories around these characters while staying true to what makes them great. Not by copying the success of Marvel, by throwing in random cringy jokes when it's not thematically appropriate, but by looking at the things that make these characters special. Now, I mentioned a lot of great comic books in this video, and I bet that if you guys go ahead and read any of these, you'll have a way different version of these characters in your mind. I bet you won't come out of them saying, DC has way worse characters than Marvel. No, you'll probably just be as frustrated as I am that these iconic characters are drifting away from the concepts that make them great.
Hi guys, it's me. Thanks for watching this really long, drawn-out video that I made. I was gonna make this video a year ago, but I needed it to cook in the oven a little bit more, and this is the product, so thanks for sitting through it. I am talking to you guys today because we have a very special announcement, and that is the new Cosmonaut Patreon page. Now, we've been spending a while looking at other people's Patreon pages and trying to analyze what we can do to make it so that everybody's getting the same amount of content, everybody's getting as much stuff from us as possible. And we realized that we actually would love to quit our jobs so that we can put videos out weekly, regularly, more than one video a week, like stuff like that. We're gonna have an official announcement later, but for now you guys can go ahead and click on the little Patreon button down there if you want to go ahead and pledge to us. There's a whole lot of rewards in the $5 and up tier that you guys can get your hands on, but the main thing is the stretch goals. Now, if you guys look over at the stretch goals, you'll notice that we have some very interesting stuff like Dungeons and Cosmonauts and Nuzlocke, the second coming, and those are things that we can work on if we get to, you know, certain tiers, because then we can quit our jobs and make more money so that we can fund better shows for you, like a real camera that we can use on our shows instead of this webcam that I'm using right now, which would be great. I would love that, and you guys would love that too, I'm sure. On top of that, we also have, what is this? What is this? That's the shirt that I designed. Some of you guys may have already heard about that. But yeah, our official store is technically open. Again, we don't have an official, like, video up for it yet because we're still working on all that stuff. But for now, I figure I'll let you guys know so you can go ahead and order stuff if you want to now. Oh, and I know we hit 100,000 subscribers, which is really cool, and I'm really happy about that. But the real celebration for that is going to come later this week. Later this coming week, I should say. We're going to have a stream, a very special stream, and I think you guys are going to like it. So stay tuned. I don't know exactly what day that's going to be on, but it'll be soon. We're going to have our 100K subscriber special thing that everybody can enjoy. Alright, so see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.